they need me. Sometimes we use others as an excuse to hold ourselves back because we're too scared to take the leap towards the life we truly desire. There's 5 monkeys in a room with a ladder and bananas on top of the ladder. And anytime one of the monkeys tries to climb the ladder to get to the bananas, they all get sprayed with cold water. And over time, they learn not to even bother trying to climb the ladder. And as the experiment goes on, one monkey is taken out and replaced with a new monkey. When the new monkey tries to climb the ladder, before even having the opportunity to get sprayed with cold water, the other monkeys drag the new one down, stopping them from going on the ladder. And eventually, all the monkeys are replaced. So it's 5 new monkeys. None of them climb the ladder because anytime a new one tries, the others drag them back down. This is, of course, an example of learned helplessness, but it is also a very simple example of generational trauma and how that can be taught and passed down. This is an example of holding someone back from a threat that is no longer a reality. It's an example of living in the subconscious mind, which we all do. 95% of our life is ruled by it. But these monkeys don't know what the threat is. They don't know why not to climb the ladder. They just know not to climb the ladder. That's what they've been taught. And so then they continue to teach that, even though they don't know why. They're just operating on autopilot based off of what they've been told. And anyone that tries to do something different, they try to climb that ladder, are immediately dragged down because of belief systems from the past and this lens that is not safe. We don't know why, but it's just not, and you can't do it. For most people, more often than not, their beliefs are not their own. But to preface throughout this video, the types of parents that I'll be referencing are those in which there is an unhealthy attachment from the individual to the parents, such as parentification, emotional incest, codependency, and also the type of parents that don't support aspirations. And of course, this can be applied to other family members as well. And there's a time and a place for family, whether that be your chosen family, the one that you create with your partner or friends, or the one that you're born into. But if it is the one that you're born into, it's about releasing the burden of having to save them or not living your life to its fullest, most abundant extent in order to please them. Parentification, which is the huge umbrella term for a lot of what we're discussing, is essentially a child-parent reversal role. And there's 2 parts of it. There's instrumental and there's emotional. Emotional parentification, another word for that is emotional or covert incest. And the instrumental side is children having to do tasks that are not age appropriate, having to take care of themselves much more than they should be at a certain age. And the emotional component often happens when a parent has some sort of mental illness, or they are going through grief, a divorce, something like that, and they don't know how to regulate their own emotions, and they are going to their child to regulate them and for that emotional support, and they're essentially treating their child like a spouse. As you might imagine, this shows up in adulthood in all sorts of fun ways, but what I find incredibly interesting is that a lot of people who experience this tend to actually think their parents did a good job and they think they had a good childhood. Definitely not all, but it does happen, and they feel the need to defend their parents. And obviously this happens because of abuse, and when people get abused, for some people their reaction is to defend their abuser, and there's reasoning behind that. But some telltale signs that this has happened to you as a child is if you were considered very mature for your age, you had to take care of your younger siblings, you feel like you didn't really get to be a kid, maybe you have a hard time letting loose, you like to be in control, and those examples are just skimming the surface. But to all the adults that experience parentification, you get to release that now. You're not responsible for them, and you get to move through the stages of grief in the process of separating yourself from them. It will be hard for you and them, and that's okay. This presents them with the opportunity to learn how to regulate emotions on their own, and as you are in the process of reparenting yourself, it allows them to do so as well. And whether or not they take that opportunity is up to them, but you no longer enabling their behavior and continuing to help regulate them and always being so available and shrinking yourself to please them or to be there for them way more than is healthy has to stop. They've made their decisions, and it's not your duty to save them. And in fact, it's actually more empathetic to allow them to live with the consequences of their actions than to continue to enable them. Here's my philosophy. We don't choose our parents. Our parents chose to create us and bring us into this world. That was a choice. We did not choose to be born, nor did we choose to be born to them. They made that decision. And so they owe us everything. We owe them nothing. And I understand that as someone who plans to become a parent. Why is this happening again? That reaction feature just happens sometimes. But when I say that, most parents, when they have kids, do so with very selfish intent. It's, oh, I want a mini-me. Oh, I want something to carry on my legacy and my family name. It's not actually about, oh, I want to raise a human. I want to be there for this human. And I want to support this being in all of its ways. It's no, I want a mini-me. No, I want to build my legacy. This is all about me, 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 me. And it doesn't mean that you have to be cutthroat with your parents and like, oh, they're just shit. It's the child isn't obligated to the parent. The parent is obligated to the child, and that is the contract they signed up for when they brought them into this world. That's their job. Oh, but they need me. Sometimes we use others as an excuse to hold ourselves back because we're too scared to take the leap towards the life we truly desire. And yes, when I discuss these things, I am also talking about the parents who are to the point where they can't take care of themselves and their health is that bad. Not to be harsh and cold, but most of the health conditions that leave people where they can't take care of themselves is their own fault. They chose not to take care of their health, not to eat well, not to exercise, not to do all the things, and now they're suffering as a result, and it is not your job to put your life on hold to deal with that. You don't want to get to the end of your life with regrets and make decisions that ultimately you can't change and you can't live with. Not to mention, it's selfish. People withholding their gifts from the world to take care of people who chose not to take care of themselves is selfish. And if you feel the need to do that, genuinely check the attachment style. Are you self-sacrificing yourself, or do you genuinely want to do this? And try on the lens of regret. Think of yourself 100 years from when you're 100 years old and look back on your life, on this situation, and think, would I regret not taking care of them? Or would I regret that I had this travel opportunity, career opportunity, this thing that I have desired for so long, and I didn't go for it because I had to stay back and take care of my parents, who, by the way, never took care of me, or maybe they did, but even so, think about that regret from that lens. It's your decision. The other part of this conversation is the parents that don't support aspirations. They may say things like, stick to your roots, oh, you're changing so much, like, be yourself, be true to yourself, like, don't, and people who resist change resist it within themselves. What happens inwardly gets reflected outwardly, and if you are changing, you're going after things, that will often trigger things within them because maybe oh my Lord. But again, it's not your job to manage their triggers or to shrink yourself so that you don't put off their triggers. That's not on you. That's on them to move through that. And whether or not they choose to do that, again, is on them. So staying true to your roots is such a toxic phrase because it's trying to hold you down to their level, just like those monkeys, just dragging you down. Don't leave. Don't go. Why are you changing? That's so wrong. You gotta stay where you are. Don't branch out. Oh my gosh, you're being brainwashed. What are you doing? It's like, no. And by the way, yourself is just a made-up character based off stories of the past. So no, don't stay true to yourself. Go change and literally become whatever you want to become. Be authentic to your soul, but not your past self. And for the love of God, unless you want to live like your parents, leave your hometown like yesterday. And especially if you've gone through parentification, that distance is a complete necessity for healing. You can't heal in the environment which harmed you. Just like you can't outrun a bad diet, you can't outrun a bad environment. And even if it's not a bad environment, you're like, oh, I love my hometown, it's great. The place that you grew up is just, no matter, I don't care if it's the most, like, it's fucking LA or just this city that has so many opportunities. If that's where you grew up, you gotta get away for a while. You can always come back, but you have to have some distance to heal. The place that you grew up is just so confining, and so there's way too much stuff from the past there that you need to move away from for a time. There's no clarity when you're in the middle of something. You have to get out to see clearly. So go out there, live a big, beautiful life. Thanks for watching. See you next time. I love you guys, and as always, back to your regular programming.